Hi everyone, I'm Anthony So, Director of the Transform Technologies and Institutions arm of the Alliance for a Healthier World at the Johns Hopkins University. We're delighted to sponsor the track on Open Science to Advance Health Equity as part of MedHacks 2018. In 2013, an Ebola outbreak struck Liberia. 10,000 people succumbed to the epidemic as it crossed West Africa into Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. Leading researchers thought this was the first time the virus was seen in West Africa, but they were wrong. It turns out that as early as 1982, an academic article concluded that Liberia ought to be part of the Ebola virus endemic zone, that is, the zone of countries where Ebola might exist. However, the article is behind a paywall. The chief medical officer of Liberia's Ministry of Health and her colleagues noted in an op-ed in the New York Times that if Liberians wanted to download the paper in their country, they would have to pay $45 or about half a week's salary. No Liberian scientist was involved in the study, but Liberian citizens were, nor were results of the blood tests done for the study shared with the very Liberian citizens who participated in the study. They wondered if such information would have enabled a different response to Ebola in West Africa, and might that preparation have averted some of the 10,000 deaths that otherwise resulted. How do we change this? How do we ensure that innovations and discoveries reach those who helped us produce them? How do we place this information into the hands of scientists, policymakers, and citizens, and empower them to use this knowledge to better their health and healthcare systems? How do we develop tools, services, and platforms that allow them not only to access knowledge, but also to co-produce the innovations, the discoveries, the insights that might come from such access? And finally, how do we improve the way we bring innovation forward so that the benefits of innovation and discovery reach all of us, rather than leave us divided into a world of haves and have-nots? Your mission is to help us find answers to these questions as we strive for greater health equity. However, making this a reality requires a world in which scientists share their data, build tools using openly sourced code, make transparent their methodologies and their data, and where the resulting innovations and discoveries are shared equitably, so that such knowledge can be built upon by others. Of course, such innovations must be scalable, but when commercialized, affordable to those in need. In short, we need open science for these efforts. And this is why we are sponsoring a track and a prize to reward innovations that use open science to achieve greater health equity. I'll now describe some of the types of projects we have in mind and share some of the questions that we would like your innovations to try to answer. Our central goal in the Health Equity Prize is to get you to A, produce solutions to health inequity. The solution can have social, environmental, or economic dimensions, but that relies on open science as just described. B, to figure out ways in which findings can be made more easily shareable. And C, by doing so, reduce the disparate and unequal impacts of innovations across populations. We don't think it's enough to drop solutions into inequitable environments without some idea of how they can be meaningfully adopted. An app that tracks real-time shortages in vaccines or antibiotics, but that cannot reliably sync with central supply depots that could replenish these stocks is no good. A geolocated map of the nearest healthy food store may be inadequate if those stores are located outside of public transport routes. So go deeper. Look at the context where your hack would work and understand the need you're trying to fulfill before you get started on your project. Speaking of projects, here are some starting points we had in mind. One idea might be to figure out how we could use crowdsourcing approaches to analyze the usability of publicly available data or what could be publicly collected. Or your innovation could use the power of citizen science collected data to help understand and analyze a specific health inequity, and in so doing, provide ways to address it. An example of this is the Open Air Quality Project, which was developed in part by a professor here at Hopkins. By drawing in air quality data from public sources made available by governments and researchers across the world, they've produced an open source, open data platform that allows officials and communities access to real-time data on air quality in cities around the world. Our question to you is, how can we take such an idea, even if on a smaller scale, and find ways to build platforms that collect data from people like you and me, and aggregate and analyze them neatly in ways that allow public officials, community activists, and others to drive change? Another idea is to use openly accessible content, data, articles, or other sources, and say, help map patterns of inequity. What could we do more with geolocating where stores selling tobacco are located in cities, or flagging where public transport routes fail to serve Medicaid patients trying to reach outpatient clinics? A third approach might be to help synthesize or integrate existing data to empower consumers to make informed health decisions. The FDA makes information on the studies of the safety and efficacy of medications available to researchers and medical professionals. But wading through this information is challenging. Thus, OpenFDAtrials.net has pulled together FDA data to spot problems such as bias in the outcomes being measured in clinical trials before they finish. And another database, clinicaltrials.gov, captures what trials are ongoing and open for patient enrollment. You might build upon such data sources to connect clinical trials that need or should better include, for example, women or those from communities of color. Or you might crowdsource data on misleading ads with health claims, particularly those that might target the disadvantaged, and lift these up for FDA's bad ad campaign. How can we come up with ways to ensure that data from places like the FDA can be used more effectively to reduce health disparities and health inequities through open science? What we hope to see in your projects and what our judges will be looking for in deciding whom to give prizes to are 5 main things: connection to health equity. Tell us in your pitch and final submission what disparity you have identified and how you think your particular project helps to create a positive outcome that results in greater health equity. Promotion of open science. We hope that your project will rely on data sources, production processes, and methods of sharing that allow for easy reproducibility and that, where possible, ensure an equitable impact on the population you've identified. Innovation. Your technology should serve an unmet need and try to be as novel in your approach as possible. Feasibility. We should be able to imagine that your prototype, developed at MedHacks, has scalable elements. And finally, potential impact. We should be able to see that if successfully scaled up, your finished product has potential to improve health equity in multiple settings. The world needs you today, tomorrow, and in the years ahead to fight for health equity. Here at MedHacks, you represent the next generation of change and our best chance to end the health inequities that have so long made life an unfair lottery for so many. At the end of the day, your work goes beyond any prize or award, and 36 hours is just a start. Your work is part of the future we can build together. So with that in mind, go forward and help us make a better tomorrow for those in need.